out of all the chapters in the book, and they're all great, chapter 5 was one of my favorites. And I interviewed Jim McKelvey. If you're not familiar with who he is, he was the co-founder of Square. And I asked him during our talk, what was the key to his success? And he told me that the number one thing that most entrepreneurs and leaders don't understand is that we are all born to focus on unique problems, but that every problem is solved by applying creativity. And you talk about anchors. We talked about it a few moments ago, but in the book, you say that they are your Achilles heel. What have you learned about the importance of creative problem solving through this example of the anchor? And what can we learn from the tangled chain of an anchor in our own lives?
Patience, tolerance, kindness, all of those characteristics that you need. I don't know. Remember the show Magnum PI? Do you remember that show?
Of course. Yeah.
Okay.
How could I? Yes.
So
I love the
he's
Ferrari.
always like, yeah, okay. He's always working the lock, but as everybody's running at him, he stayed focused on working the lock, right? So work the lock. There was a time where our chains were tangled with other boats. And I remember the first officer, he had to go to the bow, and I'm like, just work the chain, work the chain. Don't stop working the chain. Don't even look up, just work the chain, right? Don't think about what's going on around you, work the chain. And that's what we have to do. Avoid the distractions, stay focused on what you're doing and work the chain. Because the minute you look up, that millisecond for us could mean a collision, right? So the boats come together with the wind blowing crazy, the chains are tangled, just keep working the chain. And if every other boat where we're tangled and the chains are tangled, if we're working our chains, guarantee you we're going to free our chains before we collide. And that's how I do it. That's my suggestion. Stay focused on working the chain. I'll explain. Monaco Harbor is a very narrow harbor. Well, not really. It's a wide harbor, but when you come in on a following sea, as those are very rough, tough seas to go into a marina on. And it was October, we were filming, and I thought to myself, okay, this sea is a following sea, but I'm fine because it's a wide harbor. I had no idea there would be a cruise ship in that harbor. Okay, so massive cruise ship that seems to be the widest cruise ship on the planet. And then as you're approaching on the starboard side, there's a wall that comes down. It's quite low, probably to our below deck windows. And I look over to the first officer because the waves get bigger, as the channel gets narrower, and I look over and I go, I'm going to make a wide turn. He goes, good idea. I needed that, right? As the people from all these boats were walking out to stand on the pier to watch me drive that boat in on that following sea, knowing we were being filmed, and I thought to myself, those moments where you go, there's no turning back. I had to commit. I knew the threshold that I had gone through was beyond the recovery. So I looked at the wall and I thought, if I hit that, I'll kill them, because that's where production is. If I hit the cruise ship, I'm just going to hurt them as I'm being lifted up by the wave and pushed. I can't go faster than the wave because I'm going into a harbor that has a lot of boats in it. There was a woman filming over my shoulder, one of the producers, and she was going, and I thought, is she breathing for me or is she breathing for herself? And as you see my hand on the throttle, because on her video, my other hand turning the wheel, I'm working it. So I decided to go for the cruise ship and just hurt them. Obviously, I didn't want to hit anything, but I made it through. And as the moment where I was able to release and take that breath, a bunch of little kids on lasers crossed my bow. So you see my hand on her video go full throttle back, right? Because a boat doesn't have brakes. Just like an airplane, you put it in revert, right? And the boat's like hopping and cavitating and vibrating. You're hoping that the engines don't come out of the beds. And I'm praying to God that I don't hit those kids as the sea's picking me up and pushing me in. And in those moments were the defining moment of my decision, where I knew I was past the point of no return. I had to commit, but I chose to hit the ship and not the wall, right? because in my mind, I was able to stay clear and focused on worst case scenarios. Wall would probably kill them. Ship, I'm just going to hit it, bounce off, just going to hurt people, right? That's what I chose. And I stayed focused. And that's how you do it. It's in those moments that are defining where you've crossed that line. And that night, I'll never forget it. My old boss called me. And I'm like, Fran, because John and Fran actually, they gave me the opportunity. I go, remember those moments where you're at the point of no return? And I thought of a Key West moment where I handed the helm over to the owner because he didn't want to wait for the storm to pass to dock the boat in marina in Key West. I forgot the name of the marina, very tight. The current rips in the Keys. And I go, let's just wait for the storm to pass because it's going to pass. And he goes, no, let's go in. So I handed him the helm. I go, remember those moments? I go, well, I had that today where I probably should have never gone into Monaco. But because I was committed to that after I turned that corner, there was no escape. I had to commit. Those are the moments.
I think it's a great example of also trusting your instincts.
Yes.